away from another NBA title. This is Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA, your source for all things NBA from the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can watch a live video version of the show. Not live, but a video version of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Arcade 1UP. Bring home a slam dunk. Introducing NBA JAM Shaq Edition from Arcade 1UP. Pre-order now to play with legends. Arcade 1UP is the place for authentic gaming experiences featuring licensed retro games from the golden age of arcades. Pretty cool stuff. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network and co-host of Locked On Nuggets. His name is Tony East. He is co-host of Locked On Pacers, as well as covers all sorts of great stuff. Follow him on Twitter at TEastNBA, including the Fever, who are having quite the season. That's the thing that's happening for the Fever. But we're not here to talk about the Fever, Tony. We're here to talk about the Golden State Warriors, who are now one win away from the NBA title after winning Game 5 in Golden State from start to finish. 104-94. It was actually 4-0 Celtics, so almost the entire way. 104-94 behind Steph Curry? No, not at all, actually. A record broken for Steph tonight, which we'll get to. Klay Thompson? No. Good game from Klay, but not great. Draymond Green, maybe? No. Andrew Wiggins with 26 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. 12 of 23 from the field. Didn't make a three-pointer and didn't need to, as Andrew Wiggins helps deliver it behind a great defensive performance from Golden State. They take the 3-2 series lead with a chance to close it out in Boston in Game 6. Your reaction, Tony East?
Yeah, Wiggins was awesome. This was not the Warriors win that you usually see, right? None of the guys who've been there before, who are a part of the first part of the dynasty, do you call it that? I don't know. Were that good in this game. You talked about Steph's thing. We'll talk about him later for sure. Only 12 points. Klay had some nice moments, one of his better games of the finals, but not like amazing. Draymond was better, but not like amazing. Wiggins, 7 and 4 in the first quarter alone. One of my notes was that he had an emphatic start on both ends. Did a nice defensive job too. Jaylen Brown does not like Andrew Wiggins right now. Andrew Wiggins was all over him at times in this game. Wiggins got it done for them. He was huge. He finished with 26. Otto Porter had some nice moments, as he has since he's been in the starting lineup. Gary Payton was amazing off the bench. Poole banked in a 3 and was awesome off the bench. Like a total team effort from the Warriors to get this win, unlike needing Steph to carry them. And on the other side, the Celtics did every possible thing to shoot themselves in the foot in this game. And it just, you can't overcome. It's almost a comedy of errors that they had. A crazy number of turnovers. I think they finished with 18. Most of them were live ball. They missed 10 free throws. Like all this stuff that just made them look gunked up and slow happened all game. They shot themselves in the foot, and the Warriors, less heralded guys, just punched them in the mouth and took care of business.
If Game 1 of this series was a game where the Warriors probably should have won, but the Celtics were able to steal it through great shooting in the fourth quarter, this wasn't necessarily a game I think that Boston should have won, because I don't think they should have. But instead, they definitely should have lost, and Boston couldn't capitalize. So you have Steph doesn't hit a three-pointer, breaks the streak of a 100,000 million games in a row where he misses, he doesn't hit a three-pointer. And you get a bad game from him. You get a really solid game in terms of the box score from Jason Tatum. 10 of 20 from the field, 27 points, 10 rebounds for Tatum. 27-10-4. Draymond has 8 points, 6 assists, and fouls out. All of these, Kevon Looney gets in foul trouble, only plays 16:45. All of these things happen, and you lose by double digits because you give up 22 points off of turnovers, and you miss 10 shots from the line. They missed 10 free throws in this game. Just I mean, quite honestly, like the Boston Celtics at this point, you have to say, are very unlikely to win the NBA title. They are likely to lose the NBA finals. And they have really, Tony, no one to blame but themselves. This is, in my opinion, all on Boston. Now, I think the Warriors deserve a ton of credit. Their defense was awesome tonight. They sped the Celtics up. They got them to take contested twos. They really brought help at the rim, and the Celtics decided, why would I pass the open person? Let's just throw up some garbage. And all of these types of things contributed. The Warriors did their job. They played awesome defense. Boston showed no patience. They showed no control. They showed no discipline. They showed this was it was worse than game 4. It was worse than game 4, and you're on the road, so I guess some of it's a little understandable. You get no 3-pointers from Steph Curry, and you lost this game. That's a miserable loss, even in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I'm becoming less of a tweeter during games, but I fired it off in the first quarter because the Celtics offense just looked terrible. I mean, they would try to set up something and have a guy or an action they clearly wanted to go to try to create their advantage or get a good shot. And if that was cut off or slightly altered or the timing was broken, they were stuck. They had nothing to fall back on it. And Tatum got it going in the third quarter, which salvaged that stat line. I don't think he played as well as his stat line looks like he did. He had a good game. I'm not going to say that Tatum was bad, but he was struggling in the first quarter. Brown was struggling a ton all night. Smart didn't get going for a little bit either. They really could not do anything. This was the best Warriors defensive game of the finals to me. And so, when I look at this game, obviously Boston's offense, like I just said, was really struggling. And Wiggins was amazing, and he'll deserve a lot of the storylines he gets. But the story of this game to me was the Warriors' defense just taking it over. Mm-hmm. They figured out what the Celtics wanted to do on offense. They shut it down. They made the role players have hellish nights. I tweeted this as well. I just said I don't like tweeting, and I've already talked about 2. Four total bench points for the Celtics in this game. The 3 bench players they played made 1 combined shot. Those role guys gave the Celtics nothing because the Warriors were doing such a good job of shutting off those release valves, shrinking the floor, making it hard to make plays after drives. They were inviting those outside shots and outside pressure, and the Celtics couldn't take advantage at all. And a lot of it was self-inflicted wounds, like the turnovers we talked about. A lot of it was missed shots, but credit to the Warriors. They made it really hard for the Celtics to get comfortable and set up their stuff. And that's the story of this game to me is they only scored 104. Steph was junk in terms of shooting the ball. I actually think he played pretty well in other areas of the game. They didn't get a ton from their starts, and they cruised. They cruised in the end. They had a bad third quarter, which is very un-Warriors. Other than that, they cruised in this game.
Yeah, I mean, they had control of this game. The Celtics came all the way back in the third quarter. They finally won a third. And again, I'm sorry, I just get this as okay, now you win a third quarter. Yeah. Whenever you do nothing else right, but now you win a third quarter in this entire series. This is the time that you do that. So not a great deal there. Why don't we take a break? We can come back and we'll talk more about what the Warriors brought to the table tonight defensively, how they sped them up, what Wiggins really gave them. We'll do all that and more when we come back on Locked On NBA. But right now, I want to tell you about Arcade 1UP. Boom, shakalaka. We have big news. The one, the only NBA Jam is back. Arcade 1UP, the leader in at-home retro arcade games, is not only bringing the best game ever back, but they made it bigger than ever with a, wait for it, Shaq edition machine. Shaq was a beast on NBA Jam back in the day. People are obsessed with NBA Jam, and I'm thrilled to tell our listeners that you can once again play hoops with NBA legends in this arcade classic. Jump clear across the court, set the ball on fire in one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams. No fouls, no free throws, and no quarters required. Man, I used to love just knocking people out of the air with Barkley. That was so much fun. Compete with friends and family through all new Wi-Fi leaderboards, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. You should use the Spurs. They're very good. That's arcade1up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1UP is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee. I'm a boss at Golden Tee, Tony. I am an absolute boss at Golden Tee. I've got to get on this. Mortal Kombat and many others starting at just $399. Check this out. They are giving away a NBA Jam Shaq edition to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade, the number 1, up.com/lockedon. You've got till July 8th to enter to win NBA Jam Shaq Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Back here on Locked On NBA, the ultimate NBA mock draft starts June 16th with over 50 insiders. Nothing equals the ultimate NBA mock draft. It's got the Locked On NBA big board draft experts plus the Odyssey insiders. First pick is June 16th, so just search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and follow now so you don't miss a pick. Over at Locked On Nuggets, we have to make up another pick because I already traded the 21 to move back to get the 26 and took somebody. And then today in real life, the Nuggets traded the 30th. So now I got to take the third. I have to figure out a lot of draft stuff in a very short amount of time, Tony. And this is it's quite the challenge the Nuggets threw me today with their trade. But we'll talk about that another time. I want to get to more of this game with you. Okay, so you mentioned the bench points. What do we think has happened to this? Like the Celtics, that was their entire thing, is they were so deep, right? And they were getting contributions from all sorts of people. And Grant Williams he had like 30 points in the Bucks series. Like he was huge in that Bucks series. And Derek White has hit shots consistently for them and was great in game one. And tonight was 0 of 4 for 1 point tonight. He was awful. The Peyton Pritchard thing is not really working. He only got 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Udoka talked about this after the game, actually. Like, this is kind of this is what it felt like. Felt like the Celtics are out of gas a little bit, Tony.
100%. And can you blame them? Not really. 2 7-game series leading up to this. Travel is killer. Like, playoffs are grueling for a reason. There is value in the sweeps that you get or the shorter series you get early on. I definitely think they're out of gas. First of all, Peyton Pritchard, someone needs to remind him how wide the court is. I think that dude has one step out of bounds for no reason turnover every single game. But yeah, Derek White, rough game. It didn't hit any of his shots, 0 for 4 from the field. Al Horford had a fine game shooting the ball, but didn't feel him as much as other games. Jaylen Brown was really off. Like, Peyton Pritchard missed all his shots. Grant Williams only took 2 shots. I think the numbers that stand out, though, of the guys I just talked about, Horford only took 6 shots. Derek White only took 4 shots. Grant Williams only took 2 shots. Peyton Pritchard only took 3 shots. The Warriors did a good job of just making it hard for them to get good looks off. They shrunk the floor. They were in the gaps. They were right there so that the ball movement was tough. Like, the leader on the Celtics in assists in this game, Matt, you know how many assists they had? 4. Tatum and Brown led the team with 4 assists, only 18 total for Boston in this game. That's where the Warriors' defense shined, is they made it hard for them to throw open advantages, weave through their offense, go through all the intricate stuff that got them those 30-point Grant Williams games, that got them those crazy Al Horford games against the Bucks, where they move it around really well and set their guys up in good positions. The Warriors are making it impossible, or not impossible, very difficult for the Celtics to do that, and they really were doing that in this game to the highest level, and that's why they couldn't move the ball as well. They couldn't get into their second side actions, and that sort of stuff really adds up over the course of the game, because then you're just relying on iso ball, relying on typical pick and roll stuff, and they couldn't get to that quick enough. So credit to the Warriors defense, like I said, story of the game, because they made it impossible for the Celtics to get to the stuff they want to get to.
Yeah, I got to go back to the turnovers thing. Like, they had 18 turnovers to 31 made buckets. And so many of these, you're just like watching Jason Tatum, like, passing the ball. There was one where he just like threw the ball a foot behind Robert Williams for an easy pick 6 for the Warriors. Just silly, really inconceivable stuff. And I get they're tired, but like, you're 2 games from the title and you're costing yourself these opportunities. Like, this is, again, if you look at this and you break it down, the Celtics lost the points in the paint battle by 6 because they couldn't make buckets. They did give up a lot of second chance points. That was a problem again in this one. But I wind up just kind of believing a little bit that this game, I don't know. I guess here's my question for you. Okay. Is, as we look at this, and by the way, the Warriors killed them in points in the paint. It was actually 50-36. I was looking at the wrong box score. And then second chance points, though, Celtics had 16. The Warriors only had 7. And the Warriors only had 12 fast break points. But my question for you is this. Have the Warriors, to a certain degree, solved Boston? Or how much of this is under Boston's control? Or can they help being this team? Is this just who they are?
Yeah, I think there is some element of solving. And Zach Lowe wrote this pretty well on ESPN. Like, there becomes a point in a series where it's like rhythmic. Like, you get the other team down, you get your rotations down. It's the same guys every night battling and executing a game plan. this series hadn't quite hit it yet, but this game felt a little bit more like game 4 in a way that the first 3 games, there were a lot of more dynamic changes. So there was, I think, an element of the Warriors have finally like, okay, this is what we want to do every game. These are the guys we want to do it with. These are the matchups we like, things like that. And Kerr, this is the best. I've seen a lot of Warriors coverage saying this too, but this is like, I think, the best postseason he's coached in terms of rotations, decisions, adjustments throughout the postseason. So I think he's got it figured out to an extent of who he wants out there when, how they want to do certain things, like when can they sneak Poole in there, because Poole is a really good player, but he's the worst defender in this series by quite a bit, right? So they have to find strategic times to get him out on the floor. He was impactful in this game because they found a good 15 minutes to get him in. He had 14 points in a short amount of time. That's huge. Like, that's a minor thing, but it sort of shows you that I think the Warriors have sort of figured out the stuff that Boston's wanting to do. Can the Celtics adjust out of it? Yeah, Udoka's done awesome at that kind of stuff in the series. I think that if they could, they'd play Robert Williams the whole game, because when he's in there, the Celtics are awesome. He was plus 11 in over 30 minutes, and they lost by 10, right? Like, he is still this huge, massive difference maker on both ends with his free safety-esque defense and mobility on offense. But there are a lot of situations that the Celtics just get stuck in because the Warriors have something figured out, and there are adjustments they can make. I think they need to get into stuff faster, for example. It's a really small thing, but they're slow taking it up. They're slow getting into their sets. But I do think the biggest element is the Warriors are in that rhythmic part of the series where they've got the other team figured out and know what they want to do at all times.
Yeah, really impressive. Like, as much as Boston's offense is frustrating to watch because it just seems so lost. Like, I've had these battles with Celtics fans because I suggested to them, I was like, they need kind of a floor general. Like, they need somebody to do that. Yeah. And they got super mad at me. They're like, it's Marcus Smart, and we don't need that. We're going to win the title. And I'm just like, watch your offense. Like, watch what happens. Like, you don't have a guy to be like, hey, why don't we get organized and actually like run a thing that we want to run? And the result is just this mess, just this absolute mess of their offense. But the Warriors defense does deserve like a ton of credit. They're athletic. They're up on guys. They got into them tonight. Like, and I'll say this, like, they shook the Celtics. Credit to the Celtics for battling back in the third quarter, but they used up too much energy and then were gassed in the fourth as the Warriors kind of ran away with it. That's the whole problem, is like they got hit right out of the box with that physicality, looked really shook in that first quarter, and then spent the next 2 quarters spending so much energy trying to catch up that ultimately when the Warriors had a counterpunch for them in the fourth, Boston didn't have anything left. I guess wrapping up on this game, did we see anything noticeably different from Boston in terms of how they're guarding Steph, what they're doing to take him away? Like, what do we attribute this night to for Steph Curry, other than just like, hey, sometimes the greatest shooter of all time is not going to have an all-time great game like game 4?
Yeah, I kind of shrug. I mean, there's a reason it's never happened before. He's had bad playoff games, but he's never missed every 3 he's taken before until today. So yeah. Look, he just tore them up in game 4 in Boston. Like, they adjusted, they got guys on him, they made it harder for him. He still got up 22 looks, and like no. Here's a playoff thing: no Steph Curry shot is bad in the postseason, like at all, right? So if he's getting up 22 shots, those are good shots. He got up 9 threes, those are 9 good threes. So he did get his looks off. Still, he just didn't really make them, and that's the hard part. Is it's hard as heck to get him to shoot less than that because he's such a brilliant off-ball mover and things like that. But his adjustment, Steph's, was, hey, I'm going to be a brilliant passer, 8 assists in this game, led his team, right? Like, he figured out how to be good on that, and he was a decent defensive player in this game. So yes, he definitely struggled shooting the ball, and I think Boston deserves some credit for the way they defended him. Marcus Smart, defensive player of the year, has done a good enough job on him to the extent that one can. But I still think he had a good game and knows how to be impactful off the ball. Like, they still smoked Boston when he was in the game. So yes, they may have figured out how to slow him down or make his shots a little harder, but any shot he takes is a good shot to me, and it's still going to take more than that if they want to win the series.
Well, we'll get into whether or not they're going to win the series. We'll go into the chances for the Celtics to come back and the chance for the Warriors to close it out. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On NBA. But first, I want to tell you about Rock Auto. The ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for you to go to your local auto parts store. You go in and you ask for the part, and they say, I don't have it, but this other store has it. Can you come back in an hour? Why waste that time? Just order it from rockauto.com. It's at home and in your pocket. You get to save time and money when using Rock Auto. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer, so you're not going to get a different price than a professional is. Everybody gets the same price at Rock Auto. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Locked On NBA Big Board. It's got host Rafael Barlow from the NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter, joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and, of course, those big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, Tony. So let me ask you real simply. The Boston Celtics, they were undefeated after a loss until tonight. They have bounced back from every moment of adversity when they've absolutely had to win. The Boston Celtics have shown up and gotten the job done. Can they force a Game 7 back in Boston?
I think so, but I'm not that confident. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if Steph can I just said Steph played a good game, but like if Steph can have 16 on 22 shots, like we already talked about it. Klay was good and Dray was good, but neither of them were the apex of who they can be, and Steph wasn't good. Yeah. And they lost by double figures. And Brown was not good. Jaylen Brown was pretty bad in this game. Jaylen Brown was not good, but Tatum was fine, and Rob Williams was a big difference maker, and Al Horford had half his shots, and Smart played fine on offense. Like they definitely needed more from their role guys, but like this wasn't a terrible Boston game. Like I think the Warriors have the Celtics figured out more than the inverse, to the extent that I think I would pick the Warriors to win the 6th game. But is it possible? Yeah, I think Boston, if they can get – it's tough because he's hurt. But if they can get more Robert Williams on the floor, boom, that's a huge difference maker for their next game. If they can find a way to get Jaylen Brown going, and might I add, going to the right, because his attacking left has been miserable for him this series, they've got a shot. And there are creative ways they can do that. But I think they've got to change their approach ever so slightly to get it done, where they're not just so reliant on like they were on Tatum in this game, or reliant on guys like Al Horford to have big games. I think they need a more balanced attack. I think that's going to be big for them. I think it's possible for them to do it. They've adjusted throughout the postseason so far, but I would not favor them to win the 6th game.
They focus so much, I think, on trying. Like they have two options. They can either pass the ball around the perimeter uselessly as the Warriors switch everything, or they can put their head down, try and drive to the basket into 3 defenders and never find an open look. But they can't get the Warriors in rotation. They can't. They can't get the Warriors in rotation, and that was supposed to be the Boston strength. And Boston's done a pretty good job of that, to their credit. Like the Boston defense is largely held up, but they got cooked on the interior tonight. 67% shooting on twos tonight for Golden State. I like Boston in the series. I like Boston in this game. I thought Boston was, if not the better team, than the team that had always had the answers, but tonight they didn't have them. I honestly don't know who's going to win. I think it's very much a coin flip, just because you're going back to Boston, and that's a weird, trying to close out Boston, I think in Boston is going to be tough. I can't see the Warriors losing 2 games in a row. That's just me. Like you got the Game 7 at home. So that advantage has historically held up. Boston has done all these things in terms of breaking precedent and fighting back. Like they went on the road and won a Game 7, and they've done all these types of things in terms of coming back from down 3-2. Like they've done this in this postseason, but we asked the question of, can they really keep doing this? And now it looks like maybe they can't. Maybe against this Golden State team that is better than the Bucks without Chris Middleton, that is better than a banged up, tired Heat team. Maybe this is just where the Celtics, not luck, but their ability to kind of make things happen, maybe that just kind of runs out, because I can't see them winning 2 games in a row versus the Golden State Warriors. It should be either way. It'll be a tough environment to win in. It's been a fun series. It's been a tense one. It's funny because Steph Curry had this game tonight, and it's not going to affect. And there's like burblings on Twitter about Andrew Wiggins Finals MVP. It's over, guys. It's over. If the Warriors win, it's Steph Curry. If the Warriors lose, it might be Steph Curry. It's Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry's the MVP. Yeah. That's it. It's done. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Well, that's part of why I don't believe in the Celtics to win the series at this point, because Steph is still on the Warriors. Like it's we've known this for years and years and years, but this season specifically, where Steph is still a killer and a lot of the other key Warriors guys have declined or are different or are more flawed, you can see his impact so much more on how much it helps those guys be those guys, right? Like Steph is the machine for Golden State. When he's out there, everything they do becomes so much easier. And like, he's still going to be playing. He's healthy and a good player. And I know he struggled in Game 5, but if he is literally on the floor, like just running around, doing the lock arms thing they do under the basket once a game now that everybody clips on Twitter. If he is on the floor at all, he creates so much panic and defensive attention that the Warrior engine can do its thing. Steve Kerr's offense can do its thing. Last I checked, he's still going to be playing in Game 6. So, yes, he is. If he's playing, I mean, that's part of why I'm so confident in Golden State. And if Wiggins plays like this, even one more game in the series, it's over, right? Like, he was unbelievable. So, I think he can. He's had a brilliant finals. And there's a lot in the Warriors' favor for me. So, yeah, I think the Celtics can do it. I think it starts with Jaylen Brown for me on Boston's side. He's got to be better, finding his spots, attacking better. Like, all playoffs, even against the Heat, he was turning it over a bunch and getting mauled by Victor Oladipo. If he can settle into his groove, he was really big in that Game 7 when they beat Miami. Then, yeah, they've got a shot. But I think as long as Wardell, number 30, is playing for Golden State, that they will be my favorite to finish it off.
Honestly, I just don't think I can trust Boston. It's just it gets look. This stat just came by. I just saw this on Twitter from ESPN Stats and Info. The Warriors' 103 points off turnovers are the most by any team through the first 5 finals games since the 1992 Bulls. Like 30 years, and this is where we're at.
Can I add my crazy stat I saw today on Twitter during the game? Jason Tatum now owns the record for most total turnovers in one playoff run from start to finish. Right? Like, and that's not like a knock. He has the ball all the time. It's a problem. Turnovers are bad. Like, you should not turn it over that much. But it also is like the Celtics, and that's kind of why I talk about the balanced attack a couple minutes ago, because like they have other guys who can kind of initiate, especially Jaylen. Like, they need those guys to get going to the point that Tatum doesn't have to be a guy who might have 100 turnovers in one playoffs.
That's wild. Absolutely wild. Been crazy. Warriors on the doorstep. Celtics trying to fight it off. We'll see what happens in Game 6. That's going to wrap it up for Locked On NBA. Make sure to follow us. Give us those 5-star reviews. Really appreciate those. Check us out on YouTube. Give us a old subscribe button. You can follow Tony on Twitter at TEastNBA, where he does tweet during Fever games, which I enjoy. And you can follow me on Twitter at HB Basketball. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. John Corrales will be along to explain to you why the Celtics are totally fine and everything is okay with Jake Madison. Check out that show tomorrow on Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time.